Good evening, friends. It's Monday night, 7 o'clock. Before we start, I would like to light my candle again. The candle of peace, the candle of light, the candle of love, the candle of comfort. It is the candle right here you have seen in the last couple of days. Let us focus and get God's light into our lives as well. Tonight's meditation is based on the gospel reading, which was the reading from yesterday. I do not know if it ever happens to you. There's a familiar Bible story, and suddenly verses just jump out at you. The story is found in John's Gospel, chapter 11. It's the story of the resurrection of Lazarus, and I'm reading to you a couple of verses. Verses 32 to 35. As for Mary, when she came to the place where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who also had come with her, he was moved in the depth of his spirit and troubled. Then he asked, "Where have you laid him?" They answered, "Lord, come and see." And Jesus wept. I have read the story many times, but these three verses stood out to me. First of all, there is Mary. Mary, who is just like anybody who loves a brother. Anybody who loves, accusing Jesus. If you had been here, my brother would not have died. I love her courage. She just says it how she thinks it. If you have been here, my brother would not have died. I love the fact that she is so outspoken. She knows about the miracle he did, and nevertheless, she has the courage, she has the strength in herself to face him. Also, what I really love about him is that she sees in him not only the healer, but also a brother and a friend who can take it. And I love that about Jesus, that he can take it. That he is the one who is totally God and totally human, and he can take it. He can take our anger. He can take when we are furious. He can take our emotions. And how does he react? Jesus wept. Jesus shows emotion. The theme of our last couple of weeks was compassion. And weeping Jesus, if that is not the symbol of compassion, then I do not know what it is. Jesus wept. And I am so convinced that Jesus weeps now with us as well, especially with all the people who are suffering and dying. I would like to share with you a devotion by Mary Luty, which is called Learn to Weep. Here it goes. A little girl asked him why God lets children suffer. She asked Pope Francis in Manila last January. Terrible things happen to children, she told him through tears. It's not their fault. Why does God permit it? It was an entirely unscripted question. So was his answer. He did not correct her theology or otherwise attempt to pacify Giselle Paloma, who, in front of a million people, had just told him that she scrounged food from garbage and slept outside on a cardboard mat. Here's what he did. He enfolded the sobbing child into his arms. Then he admonished everyone to pay close attention because he said, "She has just asked the one question with no answer." To her, the Pope said, "Only when we are able to weep about the things you have lived well will we understand anything and be able to answer you." I repeat what the Pope said to the little girl in Manila last January. Pope Francis said to the little girl, "Only when we were able to weep about the things you have lived will we understand anything and be able to answer you." And the Pope moved towards the crowd and said, "The world needs to weep. The marginalized weep, the scorned weep, but we who are more or less without needs, we do not know how. We must learn to weep. The reality in this life you can see only with eyes cleansed and clarified by tears. If you don't learn to weep, you are not a good Christian." Whenever we are asked a question with no answer, our answer must be first silence and then a word born of tears. I ask you to pray with me. Gracious God, give us tears so that we may see, and whilst crying and seeing, join each other in suffering, and in joining, be moved to love indeed. Have a good night, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to weep, because Jesus wept as well. Good night, and see you again on Wednesday.